On today's episode of Friends Talk Financial Planning, we're going to discuss how you can spend money more effectively in retirement and maybe spend more than you originally planned for if you find yourself in that fortunate situation. Hi, I'm John Shear, and I run a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin.
And I'm Bridget Sullivan-Ramel. I've got a family financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois. Before we get into tips on how to get you to spend more, please subscribe. It'll help other people find us. Okay, John, let's talk about what your first tip is. How to spend more.
If it's okay, I'd like to just kind of give some framework on things, right? Because you say, wait a minute, spending more retirement, we're supposed to not spend, we're supposed to be frugal, right? And we did an episode recently just talking about how, for a lot of people, yep, you need to be frugal, but when you've sort of won the game, continuing to be frugal is just not optimal, right? Not like it's a wrong thing to do, but you go like, listen, how can you maximize the dollars that you've saved up and make them meaningful for you, for your family, for your community? So that's the topic is, hey, if I have more capability to spend and I'm not doing it, that's not necessarily the best way to live, right? How do we think about that and be intentional about that? And so one of the things, and me, Bridget, like I like to look at the numbers and sort of the facts on things. And for me, one of the tips about how do I do that is just literally taking a look at how has my net worth grown? How have my investments grown over the years? And we see folks where, their growth in their portfolios, their growth in their net worth on an annualized basis is more money than they have ever made when they were working in any one given year, right? Which is, of course, part of what our goal is save up enough so that our money makes more money than we can earn. And at the same time, it's this really mind-blowing. I mean, it's just crazy to think about, like, oh, my portfolio, my net worth is this much more than it was last year, even after I'm retired and spending money. And it's just like this disconnect psychologically of, wow, how does this happen? Does not register sort of feeling. So one of the things about spending more is recognizing where that goes and then being intentional about saying, listen, let's have a budget above our regular, spending and go, listen, we're going to look at doing things, whether it's charitable work, if that's something that resonates with you, whether it's giving money to family members, doing some gifting or me spending a little bit more, like, listen, I need to buy some first class plane tickets instead of sitting in coach. But to have sort of a budget on an annual basis, we'll take a look at folks and say, listen, at the conclusion of this year, what happened last year? We'll actually take a look, maybe what happened over the last 3 years or 5 years on an average. Because you go, hey, a couple of years ago, everything was down, right? Net worth were maybe flat when you take into account real estate and things. So we just take a look at where are some of the numbers and setting a budget for future spending based on what's gone on. That can be one tool in just looking at sort of the hard numbers to go, okay, here's what I have the ability to spend going forward.
Yeah, right. So here's another situation I've seen too, is sometimes people, they had good savings and they're fine for retirement, but then they come by some money, inherited or whatever, and then they're all like, what? And but I have my habits set. My habits are set. What do I do now? And I like your idea of like, okay, try a budget or some kind of goal. Like, for instance, one thing I suggest is like, all right, you're charitably inclined, start giving away $100 a month and see how it feels, or like a stretch, like whatever is a stretch for you, and start doing it regularly and see how it feels. And then you can look again, make sure you're still in budget. You don't have to, you're not trying to go crazy, but like see how living a little bit larger in the things that you really want, how it feels. So it's like you're not trying to upset the apple cart, but what you're trying to avoid is your nest egg growing rapidly in retirement, and then you got choices like, okay, do I give it to kids? Do I give it to charity? Like, if you're not intentional about it, somebody's going to be, you might as well make the decisions, not somebody else. And I love the word intentional, because the reason most of the people that are in the situation, the reason they got there is because they were intentional about how they're spending all along. Not that they were depriving themselves, but that they were intentional about it. And so this takes, again, some intentionality and a switch in perspective. So I like your idea, and I second that, like every month, every week, giving away more. If that, again, if that's your intention, my first tip really is to focus on what your values are and say, how can I express those values? So some people value benevolence and giving money away, or just giving. And people admire that the most. And so then I think people think, oh, giving is the best. Okay. Giving, if that's not your number one value, you might be a creative person. You might like to enjoy life to the fullest. It can be, you can have different values than just giving that are also awesome. But if you want to incorporate more giving, you can say, how could I express these other values through my giving? So a big value for me is being independent. Okay. So if I want to give more, I can say, okay, who's got problems with that? Like who could use some help becoming more independent, and focus my generosity on that type of person.
Yeah. I love that idea of, some folks appreciate or value benevolence for the sake of benevolence, right? Of being kind to others, or giving money and resources. For others that don't have that, but you go like, listen, as you just described for yourself, right? Independence. Well, great. Let's focus on that part, not necessarily the giving money part, but on how can I help people be more independent, and the focus on those goals, whatever those things are, whether it's food insecurity or other these, right? Think about the cause, not the what, which is the giving, giving money and time away. Um, one thing as we're starting this discussion, Bridget, that I have a question for you basically, but it's something that we deal with folks is, as I described, like, hey, suddenly those numbers get bigger and bigger, and it feels weird, right? Like, how do I? Yes, I know sometimes I don't even know that I can give more money away, whether it's to kid friends or family, or charities, whatever. Okay, now I know. But then that idea of how do I make that mental jump? I mean, it's a lot of money, if my portfolio goes up 6 figures a year, I mean, shoot, giving $5,000 to somebody's a lot of money. And how do I get myself to believe that I can do that, right? You spend a lifetime being frugal, and then changing that can be so hard. And I'll just say that the only thing that I've seen has been successful is that it's a process, right? It's not like, oh, I can do this and great, I turn around and start writing great big checks to kids and to charity tomorrow. But it's like, oh, start thinking about, geez, I'm in this spot and I could maybe do this or that, and start building up that muscle over time. But it's still such a challenging thing. And I don't know if you've got anything that you use, tools or thought processes with clients.
Well, I agree exactly with what you're saying. Don't you? There's a sense of befuddlement. We talked about that in our other episode too. There's a sense of befuddlement about the whole, and maybe guilt or weirdness, because it's like, how did this happen? I mean, it's great fortune, but how did this happen? So there's a sense of befuddlement. So recognizing that, but and there's so many people that are suffering. So how is this happening? But so recognizing it and starting somewhere, like what you're saying. Another thing I like to tell people, and I got this idea from the guy I Will Teach You to Be Rich, Ramit Sethi. And I don't agree with everything he says, but one of his points is look at what you enjoy spending money on or what you like, and then just try to enhance it. Okay. So this happened to me. And although I don't really struggle with not spending enough, but this is an example. So I was talking to my brother-in-law, who is was saying that he belonged to more than one health club. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Why would you do that? One is having one now, belonging to one health club is a luxury as far as I'm concerned, which I enjoy. But he mentioned the Silver Sneakers program through Medicare, one type of Medicare. It's like, who even knew? Okay. So, but that got me thinking, like, the thing that I enjoy the most in the world, in my life, really, right now is working out. I just like working out. So, okay, if I I don't really like a lot, spending money on a lot of things, but that is something that I can try to enhance. So for instance, I can, but like now I feel it gave me permission to say, okay, right, I have my regular club, but then there's another place that I can book tennis courts, and then I could take a class at another place. Like, all right, so I'm involved in 3 clubs. Are you kidding? This is not me, like,
Yeah, right.
so but it's focused on who am I? Another tip is bringing other people along. So say you like travel. Okay, well, how could this be better? Well, maybe if I invited my relative, like somebody I like traveling with, and just said, okay, this is my gift to you. Like that can enhance the the experience for everyone, and it enhances your life. So what's it?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's really, it's interesting as you think about it, going back to like being intentional. Like, what do I enjoy spending money on, and how can I make that better? And how can I do that? One thing that popped in my head as you're talking is connect with other people and have these discussions, right? With other folks. I mean, you kind of know where your friends are or family members are, and go like, what's useful? I just really love that idea for you is, wait a minute, one health club's a luxury. 3, you go, no, this is not, this is something that you go, oh, I never considered. That's what I heard in that is I never considered that we could have done this. Cool, I'm going to do that.
Right.
Or maybe even, oh, I never considered you could do that. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. But those are the places where I find you have regrets is when you didn't consider that you could do fill in the blank, whether you do it or not. But that's a really healthy way to do things is just, pay attention to what other folks are doing and make those connections and see how you might apply some part of that to your life. That can be a really helpful way to figure out how to maximize your resources, right?
And with people who are traveling, I'm often trying to give them permission to upgrade.
Yeah.
So, because flights seem expensive now, so I'll say, fly first class. Oh, I could never do that. Well, but then they'll come back and say, well, I did book direct.
Yeah, yeah.
And that cost me an extra a lot, a decent amount of money, or we got extra leg room. And actually, to me, that's a win.
Right. Those baby steps, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then, and see, okay, then that's, again, it's feeling, me giving people a little permission seems to help.
Yeah.
If I tell them to do that, it's just like if your doctor tells you to do something, if I tell them to do it, they might listen. I mean, people ignore my advice all the time, so.
Right, but having an outside expert, right, that can be helpful.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I think that's a great place to wrap up this discussion here. And again, I'm John Shearer. I run a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin.
And I'm Bridget Sullivan Mermel. I've got a fee-only financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois. If you're interested in a financial advisor, both John and I are taking clients. If you want to find an advisor that's in your area that thinks like us, you can check out azplanners.org.
And don't forget, hit that subscribe button.